Do this tonight, not tomorrow, not on Monday, tonight. I want you to look at the clock and calculate exactly when you plan to close your eyes and go to sleep. Now, subtract exactly 3.5 hours from that time. That exact minute is your hard biological cutoff. You will finish your last bite of food by that minute. You will not consume a single calorie after it. Right now, wherever you are sitting or standing, place your hand flat against the absolute center of your stomach, right below your rib cage. Press your palm firmly against the tissue. Press deep enough to feel the resistance of your own core. Hold your hand there, do not move. Pay attention to exactly what you are feeling beneath your hand. Feel the heat radiating outward from your core. It is significantly warmer there than on the skin of your arms or your legs. Feel the physical space, the dense volume that your internal organs occupy beneath the muscle wall. Notice your heart rate. Notice how your heart is beating with a heavy, rhythmic thud, pushing massive volumes of blood down into your splanchnic circulation, the blood vessels supplying your stomach, your liver, and your intestines. If you ate recently, notice the heavy, sluggish tension pulling your posture slightly forward. Notice the sheer amount of physical energy your body is currently expending, without you moving a single muscle, just to break down the chemistry of your last meal. Keep your hand pressed against your stomach. You think poor sleep is just a natural, unavoidable consequence of crossing the age of 50. You think waking up at 3:00 a.m. with a racing heart, a hot, sweaty body, and a mind that will not shut off is just a symptom of getting older. You blame your hormones. You blame your mattress. You blame the stress of your job. You are blaming the wrong things. Poor sleep after 50 is not a mandatory symptom of aging. It is a symptom of physics and chronobiology. When you eat a heavy dinner at 8:00 p.m., sit on the couch, and go to bed at 10:30 p.m., you are doing something biologically catastrophic. You are forcing your internal organs to run a marathon while your brain is desperately trying to shut down. You are asking your body to perform the single most energy-intensive, heat-generating, chemically complex task it is capable of, digestion, while simultaneously demanding that it slip into a state of paralyzed, cooling, restorative coma. It is a biological impossibility. And right now, across 4 distinct layers of rigorous, undeniable science, I am going to show you exactly why late-night eating is destroying the architecture of your brain and aging your body decades faster than necessary. Layer 1 is pure thermodynamics. To enter deep, restorative, slow-wave delta sleep, the only stage of sleep where actual physical healing occurs, your core body temperature must physically drop. It must drop by roughly 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature drop is a hardwired, non-negotiable biological trigger. If your core does not cool down, the brain simply will not cross the threshold into deep sleep. It will keep you hovering in light, fragmented, easily disturbed sleep stages to protect you from overheating. Now, think about what digestion actually is. Digestion is not a passive process. It is a violently active, intensely thermogenic mechanical and chemical operation. When you swallow food, your stomach muscles must churn relentlessly. Your pancreas must synthesize and pump out massive quantities of digestive enzymes. Your gallbladder must squeeze bile into the intestines. Your liver must frantically process an incoming tsunami of glucose, amino acids, and lipids. Every single one of these cellular actions requires ATP, the energy currency of the cell, and the byproduct of burning ATP is massive amounts of metabolic heat. When you eat a large meal shortly before bed, you are throwing a massive pile of fuel into your biological furnace. Your core body temperature spikes. Your heart has to beat significantly faster and harder to pump oxygen-rich blood to the gastrointestinal tract to sustain this massive workload. You lie down in bed, pull a heavy blanket over yourself, and expect to sleep. But inside, your liver and intestines are running a metabolic marathon. Your core temperature cannot drop. The heat cannot escape. You lie there tossing and turning, throwing the covers off, feeling restless, waking up in a sweat at 2:00 a.m. It is not a hot flash. It is not a bad mattress. It is thermodynamics. Your body is physically incapable of achieving the temperature required for deep sleep because your organs are literally burning up the calories you just forced them to process. Layer 2 is chronobiology, specifically the science of peripheral circadian clocks. You have a master clock in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN. It sits right above your optic chiasm, and its entire job is to measure the light hitting your eyes and tell the rest of your body what time of day it is. When the sun goes down, the SCN tells your brain to release melatonin, signaling that it is time to sleep. But science in the last 2 decades has discovered something profound. The master clock in your brain is not the only clock. Every single major organ in your body, your liver, your pancreas, your gut, your heart, your muscle tissue, has its own independent circadian clock. These are called peripheral oscillators. And here is the critical, terrifying reality. While the master clock in your brain synchronizes to light, the peripheral clocks in your digestive organs synchronize almost entirely to food. When you eat a large meal at 9:00 p.m., the light has been gone for hours. Your brain's master clock is screaming at your nervous system. It is nighttime. Shut down. Release melatonin. Prepare for sleep. But the moment that food hits your stomach, the circadian clock in your liver, your gut, and your pancreas receives a massive influx of nutrients. In evolutionary biology, you only eat during the active daylight hours. So, the influx of food forcefully rewinds the clock in your liver. Your liver's clock suddenly signals, wait, food is here. It must be 1:00 p.m. Wake up, fire up the metabolism, release the digestive enzymes. You have instantly created violent, internal biological jet lag. Your brain is in the middle of the night. Your liver is in the middle of the afternoon. The organs are completely out of sync. This massive circadian misalignment causes horrific metabolic confusion. The pancreas releases insulin sluggishly because it was preparing to rest, causing your blood sugar to stay elevated for hours. The elevated blood sugar causes systemic inflammation while you sleep. You wake up feeling exhausted, groggy, and physically inflamed, not because you didn't spend 8 hours in bed, but because half of your internal organs spent the entire night thinking it was the middle of the day. To understand how far we have strayed, we have to look at the biology we actually inherited. For 200,000 years of anatomically modern human history, our ancestors operated under a rigid, inescapable, environmentally enforced eating schedule. They did not have refrigerators. They did not have microwave ovens. They did not have 24-hour drive-thrus or food delivery apps. Most importantly, they did not have artificial lighting. When the sun went down, the human day was effectively over. Hunting became impossible. Gathering became dangerous. Fire provided heat and protection, but it did not provide the kind of widespread illumination required to cook and consume massive, complex meals late into the night. The ancient human ate their final calories of the day in the late afternoon or early evening, shortly before dusk, and then the eating stopped. The human genome, your exact DNA, evolved to expect a nightly fasting window of 12 to 14 hours. It evolved to expect an empty stomach, a quiet liver, and a cooled-down metabolic furnace well before sleep began. This extended, quiet fasting period was the exact evolutionary window the body relied upon to run its deepest, most critical repair algorithms. The ancient dinner rule was not a diet trend. It was not a biohack. It was the simple, unavoidable physics of living on a rotating rock illuminated by a single star. You ate when the light allowed you to eat. You stopped when the darkness fell. And because they stopped eating hours before sleep, their core body temperature plummeted smoothly. Their liver and brain were perfectly aligned in the exact same time zone. Their insulin levels dropped to baseline. Their sleep architecture was deep, unified, and perfectly synchronized with the rotation of the planet. And then, in a microscopic blink of evolutionary time, we destroyed the system. We invented the incandescent electric light bulb. Suddenly, the darkness was optional. The day could be artificially extended into the midnight hours. Then we invented the mechanical refrigerator. Suddenly, highly caloric, highly palatable food could be stored inches from where we slept, available at a moment's notice, requiring zero physical labor to acquire. We took a biological machine that spent 2 million years of hominid evolution adapting to the rigid cycles of the sun, and we placed it inside a permanently illuminated, climate-controlled box filled with endless calories. We invented the late-night snack. We invented the 8:30 p.m. dinner reservation. We invented the habit of eating a bowl of processed carbohydrates while staring at a glowing television screen at 11:00 p.m. We took the massive, intensive, thermogenic labor of digestion, a task meant for the high-energy hours of the active afternoon, and we forcefully dragged it into the dead of night. We completely broke the evolutionary fasting rhythm. We severed the connection between the rotation of the Earth and the timing of our metabolism. And in doing so, we unleashed an epidemic of metabolic syndrome, chronic insomnia, sleep apnea, and accelerated aging that the medical system is entirely unequipped to fix with sleeping pills. You cannot medicate your way out of a broken circadian rhythm. You cannot swallow an Ambien and expect it to override the physical heat generated by a liver desperately trying to process an 8:00 p.m. steak and a glass of wine. But the thermodynamic heat and the biological jet lag are only the beginning of the damage, because layer 3 involves what happens inside your brain when you force your stomach to work the night shift. In 2012, researchers at the University of Rochester discovered something monumental. They discovered the glymphatic system. Your brain does not have a traditional lymphatic system to clear out waste like the rest of your body does. Instead, it uses a highly specialized plumbing network called the glymphatic system. Throughout the day, as your neurons fire and your brain processes information, it produces toxic metabolic waste products. One of the primary waste products is a protein called amyloid beta. This is the exact same toxic plaque that accumulates in the brains of patients with Alzheimer's disease and severe dementia. During the day, this toxic waste just builds up. But when you go to sleep, specifically, when you enter deep, slow-wave delta sleep, something miraculous happens. Your brain cells literally, physically shrink in size by up to 60%. This massive shrinking opens up the spaces between the cells. Cerebrospinal fluid then rushes through these widened channels like a biological power washer, violently scrubbing the amyloid beta plaque and toxic waste out of your brain tissue and flushing it into your liver to be destroyed. But here is the terrifying catch. This deep cleaning process only happens during deep, slow-wave sleep. If you eat a large meal right before bed, your core temperature stays high. Your heart rate remains elevated to pump blood to your gut. Because your temperature is high and your heart rate is elevated, your brain cannot descend into deep delta sleep. It is forced to hover in the lighter, protective stages of sleep. Because you do not reach deep sleep, your brain cells do not shrink. The channels do not open. The cerebrospinal fluid cannot wash the tissue. You wake up 8 hours later and your brain is still completely saturated with the toxic amyloid beta plaque from yesterday. You feel brain fog. You feel sluggish. Your memory is slightly worse. And if you repeat this pattern for decades, eating late, blocking deep sleep, and preventing the nightly brainwash, That toxic plaque accumulates, hardens, and begins to literally destroy the neural architecture of your mind. You did not develop cognitive decline simply because you got older. You developed it because you forced your body to digest food when it was supposed to be power washing your brain. Layer 4 is endocrinology, the brutal, undeniable chemistry of aging. When you eat food, especially carbohydrates or protein, your pancreas releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin's job is to shuttle the glucose out of your bloodstream and into your cells. It is a vital storage hormone. But insulin has a dark side when it comes to sleep. The single most powerful anti-aging chemical in the human body is human growth hormone, HGH. HGH is the hormone responsible for repairing torn muscle tissue, strengthening bone density, maintaining the elasticity of your skin, repairing your joints, and burning visceral body fat. And here is the crucial fact. You produce roughly 70 to 80% of your entire daily supply of human growth hormone in one massive pulse, right after you fall asleep, during the first cycle of deep slow-wave sleep. But biologically, insulin and human growth hormone are antagonistic. They hate each other. They cannot coexist in high concentrations in the bloodstream at the same time. When insulin is high, human growth hormone is chemically suppressed. When you eat a meal at 8:30 p.m. and go to bed at 10:30 p.m., your insulin levels are still heavily elevated. The glucose is still clearing. The pancreas is still pumping. You fall asleep. The brain tries to command the pituitary gland to release the massive, restorative pulse of human growth hormone, but the elevated insulin blocks the signal. The pulse is blunted. The HGH is suppressed. You sleep for 8 hours, but the primary hormone responsible for repairing your aging tissues is missing. Your skin loses its elasticity faster. Your muscles atrophy. Your joints remain inflamed. Your body stores the dinner as visceral fat instead of burning it for fuel. You literally age faster on a cellular level, simply because you introduced a storage hormone, insulin, into the exact physiological window where a repair hormone, HGH, was supposed to operate. You blocked your own anti-aging mechanism with a late-night meal. We must calibrate the science. I want you to know exactly how firmly established these mechanisms are in the medical literature. The thermodynamic requirement for a drop in core body temperature to initiate slow-wave sleep is absolute, bedrock sleep physiology. It is heavily documented in every sleep lab in the world. The existence of peripheral circadian clocks in the liver and the pancreas, and their entrainment to food rather than light, is the cornerstone of modern chrononutrition. The concept of metabolic jet lag is heavily cited in endocrinology and aging research. The glymphatic system and its role in clearing amyloid beta plaque during deep sleep was a groundbreaking discovery out of the University of Rochester Medical Center in 2012, and it has since become the gold standard for understanding neurodegenerative disease prevention. The antagonistic relationship between insulin spikes and the nocturnal pulse of human growth hormone is basic, foundational endocrinology. It is not debated. High insulin blunts HGH. Fact. This is not a fad diet. This is not a wellness trend. This is the inescapable physics of the human machine. Now stand completely still and recognize the sheer magnitude of the biological machinery you have been sabotaging. Think about the heat radiating from your stomach right now. Think about the energy your body is expending just to process food. Imagine what happens when you stop the late-night eating. Imagine what happens when you run the exact biological sequence your ancestors ran for 200,000 years. You finish your last bite of food at 6:30 p.m. By 10:00 p.m., digestion is completely finished. The stomach is empty. The liver is quiet. The pancreas has shut down. Because the furnace is off, your core body temperature plummets smoothly. dropping the exact 1 to 2 degrees required to open the gateway to the deep unconscious. Because the liver is quiet, its peripheral clock aligns perfectly with the master clock in the brain. Zero biological jet lag, total circadian harmony. Because the temperature dropped, the brain instantly descends into deep, slow-wave delta sleep. The brain cells shrink. The cerebrospinal fluid rushes in. The glymphatic system violently scrubs the toxic amyloid beta plaque from your neural pathways, protecting your memory and cognitive function. Because digestion is over, your insulin levels have dropped completely to baseline. The chemical blockade is lifted. The pituitary gland fires. A massive, unobstructed pulse of human growth hormone floods your bloodstream, repairing your joints, synthesizing new muscle tissue, restoring your skin, and burning fat while you lie completely paralyzed. 4 profound, neurobiological and thermodynamic mechanisms running perfectly, simultaneously, cascading into one another to repair, restore, and rejuvenate the human machine. And all it requires is for you to stop putting food into your mouth 3 hours before you close your eyes. Look at the clock again. Remember the time you calculated at the beginning of this video, exactly 3.5 hours before sleep. Draw a hard, non-negotiable line in the sand at that exact minute. Treat it as an absolute biological law. When that minute strikes, the kitchen is closed, the biological furnace is turned off, the digestion stops. Do not rely on sleep medication. Do not rely on expensive supplements. Do not accept exhaustion and accelerated aging as a mandatory penalty for crossing 50. Your biology is not broken. Your hormones are not failing. You have simply been forcing your body to work the night shift when it was desperately trying to heal you. Align with the sun. Align with the physics of your own temperature. Let the stomach empty. Let the brain wash itself. 3 hours, no food. The human body will do the rest.